folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis here at the Prepared Homestead. Got the old loppers out today because I'm working on kind of clearing out this row here so I can put a new fence in. This is the part of the property that runs along this little gravel road here. There's an old fence in this row, but it's pretty much tore down and all grown up around it, and it really doesn't offer a lot of any kind of security because the fence is very deteriorated. So one of the projects that I'm working on, actually starting, is clearing this out enough to run some new fence. Gonna get some field fence. I've already put up a new gate on one end and repairing an existing gate at another entrance. And all of this brings me to the topic that I wanted to discuss today, and that is things that you need to be doing this right now on your homestead that may be a little different than what you would normally do because of this pandemic. So on a homestead, and all of you that have land, have your little farm, little homestead, you know this. It's constant projects. There's always something that you're working on, some new project in the works. And maybe this year, because of things that are happening, that are changing, you probably need to reevaluate some of those. And some of those, the priority levels may change a little bit. And let me give you an example. So here in our homestead, our house is kind of small. It's a good piece of property. The house is fine, but it's a little small, and we would like to add on to it and expand it, which was going to be one of the things that we thought about doing right off the bat. But here's the thing. Even though the house is a little small, it's totally fine the way it is. And so instead of spending the time and money right now on expanding the size of the house, we've decided to put our money and our efforts into other more critical things because of what's going on in the world around us. Because the house is going to be fine the way it is, although it's a little small. So there's three things that I think that you need to kind of put a lot of heavy focus on in your homestead right now because of the world that has changed so much. And it's not just because of this virus. It's a lot of it has to do with the economy, the food supply system that is in great, dire straits. It's about ready to fall apart. In fact, the UN announced yesterday, I believe, saying that they predict that this summer that the world will start seeing famine of biblical proportions. That's their exact words. So there's a lot of things changing that are very different this year compared to a normal year in the past. So if you've been homesteading for a while and you have your annual projects you work on, things are very different now. And so maybe you need to kind of reevaluate your project list. And so I like to categorize them into three things that are high priorities. Number one, it's security. That can be perimeter security, which is something that we're doing here, or just your own security on the property. Maybe it's having the right animals that aid in security, getting firearms or more of them, or more ammunition or things like that. It could be lighting. Lighting could be security. Maybe it's clearing certain parts of the property to give you a good line of sight for security. These are things that you should be thinking about. Another one is your food security. Are you going to be growing enough food? A lot of people that homestead, maybe they don't do as much food as they could. They're still somewhat dependent upon the food system. Maybe they get their food from other farmers and they kind of garden just more as a fun thing so that they're slowly learning. This year, maybe you need to go just all out. And even if, look at it this way, if you go in and you increase your food production, your garden space 4 or 5 times larger than normal, and it still doesn't produce as much as you'd like it to do, you're still going to get more out of it. And so that's something that we're doing here. We're putting in new gardens, new spaces. The quality of the harvest may not be as good because it's new ground, it's new area, but we're still putting a lot out so that we can hopefully increase the amount of harvest. Maybe it's animals. Maybe this is the year to add more animals or some animals to it. Chickens, I highly recommend chickens. Everyone loves chickens, you know. And they're a great meat source, and the eggs offer a lot of protein. They don't take as much space and as much money. If you don't have chickens on your homestead, you absolutely need to get them. And I would recommend more than just a few. I personally would say probably not less than 10 or 15 chickens on your homestead. And so food security is very critical, and not just in growing and producing it, but also preserving it for later, because it doesn't do a whole lot of good to produce, you know, 200 pounds of tomatoes if you don't know how to preserve them or don't have the ability to preserve them. You can't eat 200 pounds of tomatoes before they go bad. So work on your preservation too, canning, that type of stuff. And then third, and this is very, very important, and the fencing and the gate is part of that also, is infrastructure, working on your infrastructure. And that's something that you're doing all the time on a homestead, is working on your infrastructure. And I know you could say, well, the house that you mentioned, that, you know, adding onto that, that's infrastructure. True, it is. But the house the way it is suits us for now. You know, it's not like it's caving in on us or something like that. It's just we would like to have a little bit more space. But maybe you need a barn, or a better barn, or a bigger chicken coop, or a better chicken coop. Maybe it's electrical, or it's solar, or it's more water, or another well, or dig a backup, or building a spring box for that spring on your property, something like that. Putting in a ram pump for the creek that you have, you know, for extra water. These are all parts of your infrastructure. The reason is, and I know some of you, although I don't think too many, but some of you might be saying, well, it's just a virus. You know, the president and all these governors are already talking about reopening the country again. So why go to all this effort? Because it's about over. Folks, this isn't over. I don't think we're even close to this being over. And the scary thing is, the sad thing is that even when the virus is actually over, the world around us will still be completely different than what it once was. So I don't think it's ever going to be really over. As far as the virus, do your history on past viruses and look at just how viruses work. They come in waves, and usually the smallest and weakest wave is the initial one, which is the one that we're in right now. The second waves, and sometimes even the third wave, is always much worse. And so the virus on its own has this very likely potential of becoming much worse. Come this fall, you know, was reading, and a lot of this is, you don't even have to learn, just use your mind. Right now, flu season's pretty much done, and it's going to be done for the next few months. If this second wave hits in the fall, when flu season is peaked, and you're going to have the virus and the flu season, that could easily start overwhelming the system again. And then you look at the food. There's meat plants shutting down all over the country. Almost every day I'm seeing reports of different processors and stuff shutting down. And farms that are having to throw away and dump their food. Dairy farmers having to dump their milk. These things we're gonna catch up with us, okay? You can't do that and just expect that everything's just gonna be fine. It's eventually gonna catch up with us. And so I don't think that this is anywhere near to being over. And like I said, even when the virus is over, we still have to deal with the fact that we, the people, have handed over so much authority to the government. And we're not gonna get that back. I highly doubt that. I mean, there's people being arrested because they opened their business, and even though they did all the things, I was watching a report that this guy did everything he thought, according to the law, that he had to do to ensure that he could continue to have his business open, and they still came in and arrested him and fined him. You know, people are getting arrested at city parks because they're violating quarantine. The amount of draconian, totalitarian tyranny that we are seeing here in America because of this is just mind-blowing. It's something that many of us have talked about for years that it could happen, but yet now it actually is happening. Those kinds of things are probably not going to go away. So what I'm saying is while you're still able to, while there are still places that you can go get lumber and fencing and things like that, because you never know, there may come a day soon where you can't get a lot of that. There's already some places in this country you can't even buy seeds or fishing equipment and stuff. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to say there may come a day where you can't even buy fencing or lumber, or it doesn't exist anymore because of shutdowns and stuff. Take the time that you have now. I'm living under the assumption with my viewers here that you're all pretty decent on the prepping, and so you probably have already got your preps at least going. I'm sure you can improve. We all can improve, but at least you have them going. But for you homesteaders, right now, weather's warming up, spring is upon us, summer's on its way. You need to be doing the things around your homestead to prepare yourself even more for whatever this pandemic and the waves behind it, not just the waves of the virus, but the waves of the economy and food supply, breaking down, and then draconian government. You need to be prepared more on your property for that. And do the things that you need to be doing to prepare for that. Infrastructure, security, food security, those things are highly, highly important. So if you were wanting to purchase a new tractor because you like the color of this one versus the one you already have, maybe the one you already have is good enough and you could take that money and put it towards something else. Try to think about, is this the highest priority because of what we're doing right now? Because 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, it could be astronomically worse. It may not be, but it could be really a lot worse. And so my opinion right now is take this time, this kind of lull that's kind of starting to happen, to really kick it in gear and get your homestead ready for what it very likely could happen. You know what? If nothing happens, what are you out? You've just improved your security and your infrastructure and your food supply. Things that you should be doing anyways, that's on that to-do list, you've just kind of rearranged the priority of them. And so that's kind of what we've been doing here. It's been raining, so I kind of had to stop in the garden because it's just rained last night all night, and we've had a little break right now. It's supposed to rain for the next couple of days. So kind of gardening is out, and now I'm switched gears, focusing on this fence row, getting that kind of stuff. So, work on that kind of stuff and really kind of evaluate your priorities. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.